Today we have the final installment in the anticipation of Agony, published in the Underdogs Rise, Volume 2, just now available on Amazon. If you missed installments 1 and 2, definitely back up, check those out. I'm going to back up just a little bit here, and we'll find out what happens. Despair crept over them like moss over river stones, slow and creeping. A promise of sorrow stiller and more silent than any river spirit could endure. Even Gangara's name was the sound of cold mountain springs clattering over black rocks. How could they bear the immovable weight that was coming? But then, they heard it, then they saw it, then they felt it. A massive explosion, almost out of sight, its flames just barely visible over the buildings. But the billowing black clouds that followed, furling, peeling across the horizon, left no doubt. The black grit hit the back of their teeth, and they choked, convulsing, falling from the window to the floor in paroxysms of laughter and what would have been tears. "You did it, Tyka," they gasped. "You mad little Fae. You did it after all." It would be stupid to hope, wouldn't it, that Tyka had not only succeeded brilliantly, but had escaped with her life, too. Almost an impossibility. Almost. Which left Gangara teetering on the cruel, sharp edge of maybe. All night they vacillated between terror and ecstasy. Surely, if there were any chance at all, sunup would have been time enough to tell. As soon as the first finger of dawn wiggled under their thin curtains, Gangara was out the door and down the street. They skirted the edge of the cathedral, floated past the cross-pocked churchyard, and hurdled the gate that led to the poorly marked graves of the unblessed. They were unsurprised to see Balthus already there, droplets of dew gathered on his wrinkled forehead. "I waited for you," he said, in answer to their unasked question. They waited there a moment, frozen in an awful anticipation, their eyes fixed on the small copper canister affixed to a flat gravestone, almost entirely obscured by weeds and grass. Hundreds of years ago, some poor, broken-hearted mother had carried her prayers here for her unbaptized baby, hoping her God would be more merciful than her priest. Now it was where Tyka and Balthus and Gangara passed messages between meetings. If Tyka had survived the night, in any form at all, she'd have left a message here. And if the canister was empty, that was a message too. Finally, Balthus spoke. "Do you want me?" "No." Gangara shook their head hard. "No." "I'll look." They knelt. Carefully, precisely, as if there were some ritual to this that could secure the outcome they wanted. Needed. More than anything. They twisted the end open. Something white poked out. Relief surged through them like floodwaters, so powerful they fell forward on their palms, their arms shaking. Fighting for breath, they straightened and withdrew the missive. Without a word, they passed it to Balthus, unable to bring themselves to open it. What more did they need? It was enough to know that Tyka still lived, still fought like the stupid, ridiculous little human Fae she was. Balthus's voice was even more gravelly than usual as he read. "You owe me a drink, or 12. Geronimo." "Geronimo?" "Some old human story I don't remember," Gangara said. Balthus whooped, which is one of the weirdest sounds that can come out of a gargoyle. "She did it and she lived. We gotta celebrate. Patrols be damned. This calls for a party." "I suspect the patrols in question are going to be ever so slightly more intense today," Gangara said dryly. "Or non-existent. Maybe the humans will decide this is the perfect time for that revolution they love to talk about. Seems unlikely. They're not exactly notorious for their principles when their conveniences are on the line. Gangara spoke slowly, trying to keep the exhilaration, the relief, the sheer happiness from rendering them a puddle of shadows on the cemetery grass. Fair point. Balthus was practically burbling. Gangara thought he was as happy as they were. But sometimes those creatures do surprise me. So you like to say. I can't say they surprise me very often. You've only been in the city a few hundred years. All that time you were in the mountains, I did see things. Things that gave me a little hope about these brief skin bags. It must be true, Gangara relented with a weak laugh. Tyka used to be one after all. She is pretty fucking awesome. She is. Balthus wrapped a thick gray arm around Gangara's leg, and the two of them staggered happily into the catacombs, where they proceeded to drink themselves as silly as only beings millions of years old can do. But on the walk home, in the dark, Gangara thought about the 28 more days till the next time they did or didn't see Tyka, and the black grit swelled thick and miry in their throats. The end.